They thought I was replaceable. That was their first mistake. The email came at 9:12 a.m. Subject line, position redundancy notice. No meeting, no warning, no appreciation for 7 years of loyalty. Just one cold sentence. Due to restructuring, your role is no longer required. Redundancy. That word felt funny, because the entire company ran on systems I built. My name is Daniel. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't loud, I wasn't political. I was the operations compliance manager, which means one simple thing. Without my approval, nothing legally moved. But they forgot that. Or maybe they never understood it. The company was a fast-growing logistics firm. Warehouses, transport contracts, government supply deals. Big money. But there was one small detail most executives ignored: to operate legally in 3 states. The company needed a special multi-region operating license. And that license was registered under my professional credentials. Not the CEO's, not the board's. Mine. Because when the company started, no one else qualified. I had the certifications. I passed the audits. I handled every government inspection. They used my license to expand. And then one day, they decided I was redundant. The firing meeting lasted 8 minutes. HR sat beside my manager, Claire. Claire avoided eye contact. "Daniel, this is purely structural," she said softly. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't remind them about the license. Because I wanted to see how far they would go. I signed the papers, collected my laptop, walked out calmly. But here's the first twist. They assumed my license automatically stayed with the company. It didn't. The license was tied to my employment status. If I wasn't officially employed, the authorization expired within 72 hours. And no one in that boardroom knew that. Day 1 after termination, I slept peacefully. Day 2, still silence. Day 3, my phone started vibrating non-stop. Missed calls, emails, unknown numbers. Because that morning, a government inspector visited one of the warehouses. Routine audit. And when they checked the operating credentials, they found something shocking. License status, inactive. Operations, non-compliant. Immediate temporary suspension. 3 major delivery trucks were stopped on highways. 2 warehouse facilities were ordered to halt distribution. Investors started asking questions. And suddenly, I was no longer redundant. Claire called first. "Daniel, there seems to be a technical issue with the license system." I stayed calm. "It's not technical." Silence. "What do you mean?" "The license is tied to my employment. You terminated that." Long pause. "We thought—" "I know," I said gently. "You thought I was replaceable." She didn't respond. By afternoon, the CEO himself called. Harrington. Confident voice, slightly shaken. "Daniel, I'm sure we can resolve this professionally." Professionally. Interesting word. I was professional when I built compliance systems for 7 years, I replied. He ignored that. What would it take to reactivate the license? There it was. Power shift. But here's the second twist. Reactivating the license wasn't simple. It required a new employment contract, re-registration, board approval, and most importantly, my signature. Without me, they would need 6 to 8 months to appoint another qualified professional. 6 months of halted operations, 6 months of lost contracts. 6 months of shareholder panic. The company would collapse. But I didn't rush. I waited. Because something else was happening inside the company. Rumors started leaking. Employees were angry. Discovered something interesting. The redundancy restructuring wasn't about cost saving. It was about executive bonuses. They fired mid-level managers to show artificial budget cuts, so the board could justify performance incentives. They sacrificed loyal employees to increase their own payouts. And that information reached me through former colleagues. That's when I decided this wasn't just about reactivation. This was about leverage. 2 days later, I requested a formal board meeting. Not a phone call, not an email. A board meeting. They agreed immediately. When I entered that same building, security greeted me differently, respectfully. Harrington started speaking. Daniel, we value your contributions and would like to offer reinstatement. Reinstatement. Same salary, same position, as if nothing happened. I smiled slightly. No. Silence. Claire looked confused. No? I'm not interested in returning to the same role. The CFO leaned forward. What are you proposing? I placed a folder on the table. Inside was a contract, but not an employment contract. A consultancy agreement. Higher compensation, independent authority over compliance, board-level reporting access, and one more condition. Executive bonus transparency review. They went silent, because they understood what that meant. I knew about their manipulation, and I wasn't afraid to expose it. Here's the biggest twist. I wasn't bluffing. If negotiations failed, I was prepared to report the bonus restructuring to regulatory authorities. Not illegally, just transparently, which would trigger a financial audit, and that would destroy the leadership team. Mr. Harrington studied the contract carefully. You're asking for significant authority. I looked directly at him. You asked for redundancy. I'm offering stability. Long pause. Then something unexpected happened. One of the board members spoke. Approve it. Everyone turned. He continued. He built the compliance foundation of this company. We underestimated him. The vote passed. Unanimous. I didn't return as an employee. I returned as an independent compliance consultant with board-level authority. And my first action? Executive compensation review. Within 3 weeks, internal findings revealed bonus manipulation. Not illegal, but ethically questionable. Shareholders weren't happy. Pressure increased. And within 2 months, Harrington resigned. Official statement, pursuing other opportunities. Claire remained, but she changed. She treated every employee with visible caution, because now everyone understood something very clearly. The quiet man they fired was the backbone of the company. But here's the final twist. I didn't destroy them. I stabilized operations, improved transparency, built a second-tier compliance team, so the license would never depend on one person again. Because real power isn't revenge, it's control. And I controlled the one thing they ignored, the foundation. Months later, during an annual shareholder meeting, one investor asked, "What was the turning point this year?" The board chairman answered, "When we realized redundancy doesn't mean useless." I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I simply signed off on the renewed multi-region operating. license, now registered under the company's expanded compliance division. Not just my name. Because I learned something important. If you build the foundation, never let anyone convince you that you're replaceable. And if they do, let them discover the consequences themselves.
I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I simply signed off on the renewed multi-region operating license, now registered under the company's expanded compliance division. Not just my name. Because I learned something important. If you build the foundation, never let anyone convince you that you're replaceable. And if they do, let them discover the consequences themselves.